Welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk about a special ratio, which is called a rate or rates. So rates are special in that they are ratios that compare two quantities that have different units. Now we've already seen some of these in our ratios. We just didn't call them rates. But we're at a point now where we can go ahead and identify these special ratios. Whenever you have two different units, for example, in example A, we have dollars compared with pizzas, we call that a rate. So to write a rate, it is important to remember these units. So again, there's different ways to write ratios. So we could write $27 to 3 pizzas. As a fraction notation, we could write $27 to 3 pizzas using the word to, or we can use colon notation as well. And again, we can use the phrase for every as another way to describe this. So you could say for every $27 you get 3 pizzas. Alright, so for the next one, 160 miles in 4 hours, we could say for every 160 miles, 4 hours go by, 4 hours pass. So 160 miles to 4 hours. The last one I'll do in colon notation. So for every 32 gallons, 8 minutes will elapse. Maybe you're filling a pool or something like that. So you fill it for every 32 gallons, 8 minutes go by. Alright, so rates are that easy. So don't overcomplicate it. Again, the absolute key thing you need to remember are writing these units. So whenever you're writing a ratio with different units, include the units. Alright, so go ahead, try the on your owns. Alright, so we have 55 questions to 11 minutes, or for every 55 questions, it takes someone 11 minutes. For every 36 cookies, there are 12 students, and then for every $165, there is 15 hours that pass. Alright, so let's now look at a special case here, another visual way to represent rates and ratios, and that's called a double number line. So we've done plenty of work with number lines. Now we're going to put two of these number lines together to describe a ratio. Now, as I mentioned before, it's super important for rates to remember the units. Okay, so don't forget the units on all of these. Now, each of these represents a different rate. So we have $0 as 0 hours, $15 is 1 hour, $30 for 2 hours, and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to circle a couple of these and write the rates for them. So let me do these two here. So the first one, I could write the rate as $30 to 2 hours. Again, with rates we need the units, and here are the units on the double number line. For the second one, we have $60 for every 4 hours. For B, now we're talking degrees. Notice we have a 0, 0. And let me pick this one here. So it's 0 degrees. I'll write it this one using colon notation. 0 degrees for 0 hours. And then the other one I circled 24 degrees to 6 hours. So again, a double number line is just a nice way to visualize different ratios and rates. Alright, go ahead and try the on your owns. Go ahead and pick a couple of your choice. Alright, so for the ones I picked, I have 110 miles for 2 hours, 330 miles for 6 hours. For B, 10 feet for 2 seconds, and 20 feet to 4 seconds. Okay, again, the key thing to remember, include those units in your rates. Now we have a special rate. It's called the unit rate. Now the thing I want to point out, it says unit rate. That is not plural. That means we want 1 unit, 1 minute, $1, 1 hour. Okay, so the unit rate compares a quantity to 1 unit of the other. The denominator for a unit rate must be 1. So what we're going to do is essentially divide the numerator by the denominator, and we'll see that in a second. Here's a super important point. When you write your final answer for a unit rate, use the word per. So it's the numerator's units per the denominator unit. So some common ones are like 65 miles per hour. That means you travel 65 miles for every hour, or in 1 hour. The next one we have $1.50 per song. So it costs $1.50 for 1 song. So let's look at how we can come up with unit rates. So these should look familiar to you. These were on the first set of examples. We know to write this rate, we could do $27 for 3 pizzas. So the idea of a unit rate is that we want to know how much it is for 1 unit. So for 1 pizza, what is the cost for 1 pizza? So we're just doing equivalent fractions here. So how do I go from 3 pizzas to 1 pizza? Well, I can divide by 3. So we are always going to divide by the denominator. So whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. And 27 divided by 3 is $9. All right, to write my final answer, now I'm going to use that word per. So it's $9 per pizza. So I've got my units and I've got the word per. Let's look at the next one. 160 miles for every 4 hours. And we want the unit rate. So we want to know, what is it for just 1 hour? So what is it per hour? Well, again, we're always going to divide by that denominator to get the denominator to 1. So we're going to divide numerator and denominator by 4. So 160 divided by 4 is 40 miles. And then I go ahead and write my answer as 40 miles per hour. And this one is actually a special one. We know miles per hour is mph, so I am good if you do 40 miles per hour abbreviated. And last but not least, we have 32 gallons to 8 minutes. And we want to know how fast are we filling up that pool in 1 minute. So we want the unit rate. So we have to divide by the denominator. And 32 divided by 8 is 4 gallons. So my final answer is 4 gallons per minute. I can't stress enough this phrase per, okay? Make sure that that is in there. That per means essentially that it is for 1 of whatever unit you have here. Alright, so go ahead and try that on your own. Alright, so the first one, A, is 5 questions per minute, B, 3 cookies per student, and C, $11 per hour. Alright, that'll do it for our introduction to rates.